share my screen. Okay. All right. So where we were is when we clicked save, it didn't work. I thought it was to do with the runner. It was not. Excuse me. What was the problem is I needed to do. I can't think of what it was. GTK pristine. So one thing to know is like, so GitLab, we just released version 16. So you can see lab release cycles. Each month we release a like a small release, a minor release, I guess, and then once a year we release a major release where things break, right? So, so when people are updating their self-hosted instances, when people are updating their self-hosted instances, then they'll have to do, like if they only update once a year, this is the time where things break. So if we do any breaking changes, it happens in this one time, which happens, it's just happened, right, on the 22nd, I guess. So yeah, so a couple of things broke. I needed to do GTK pristine, just like, oops, like GTK pristine. Yeah, pristine. So what this does is like it clears your database, sets up a new database. It might have been reset data. It's one of these. I think they're pretty similar, right? So deletes your database, so my GTK is fresh. Okay. So excuse me. All right, so it works now. So if we say save changes, you as one of the users, you must also accept the terms and conditions. So it's going to give us a terms and conditions page that we have to accept to go back. Okay, saved successfully. And then, yeah, when I just changed it before, it asked me to agree and just added this. So I would have expected us to give a new one, but in any case, we can find the page like this. Okay. So where we were is just trying to work out, like, why is this an unordered list? Should it be? Why is this a list item? Can this just be, well, why is that? And then the next thing here is, like, what is this drop down doing? Why is this a drop down? Because what's actually happening here is we're using a class of user drop down class, right? And what user drop down class does is it creates what was it? Okay, so this bit, drop down menu right, this opens up, it renders this partial, which is this, which is its own. Okay, so this is a list. But this must be used somewhere else as well, right? So what I'd like to do, one thing we can do is find out, like, where else is this rendered. So it's rendered in the terms. Like, is this a reused component or is it not? So this is app layouts header. So I think this is using the same, gosh, It's using the same partial in the header that it's using in the terms and conditions. It's also using it in current user down, which is in the header. So what I imagine it to be is if we go back, we have a look at this header in old navigation. This is the same component as this. Probably, maybe. That's what I'm trying to work out. So then is this using an outdated dropdown? Because you really want to be careful adjusting this. Or is it using the correct dropdown? So one way we can find out is, so in our issue, we have, what we need to do is replace bootstrap dropdown. So I want to work out, like, what is bootstrap dropdown? Well, which line is it picking up here? So one thing we can do is we can look at the parameters migration scanner, adoption scanner. This is a scan of our entire code base and looking for, like, are we using buttons correctly? 712 correct buttons, 445 incorrect buttons. So we want to look at dropdown, we want to look at the bootstrap ones, and then we can see a list of bootstrap. So what I particularly want to know is, like, what is it searching for? So here it's picking up this data toggle dropdown. This is picking up data toggle dropdown. Okay, same thing, more or less. Toggle dropdown. So where toggle dropdown is bootstrap. Okay, so here we have, sorry. No, where's our original? This one. So because it says data toggle, this is bootstrap. And my question is, why is this here and not in here? I would have expected a partial to have the word current user dropdown to be using the dropdown. So we're going to look for the word dropdown, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So this is just rendering the items in the dropdown, but it's giving us an unordered list. So, oh, that's what I was going to do. So this current user dropdown is rendered in a few different places. One is here, which is where we are. Another one is in itself. It can't be right. Oh, no, it's not. Dropdown item. Okay, fine, fair enough. And then here, this is the header, and it's rendering the same list, but it's rendering it differently. So here we have JS nav user dropdown class dot dropdown, and oh no, this toggle dropdown. I think this is a I think this is also a bootstrap dropdown. All right. So here we've got, this got a bit harder. So one thing I'd like to do is verify that. So I'd expect it also to pop up here. So this file name is default So this here is the header in the header layer. So this is an important issue, and it's also one that's likely to be have a lot more notice on it because it's a big one. So we're going to look for. So we can just look for default HTML. No, that's not it. But it's not likely to be anywhere. So we can also look for the relative path. Then if this is using Bootstrap, there must be an issue for it. Okay. Let's have a look at this. How can we reduce the complexity within the navbar partial? Excuse me. All right. Yeah. So also want to look for navbar and the word. So I also want to look for the word bootstrap. Actually, it might be close. Ideally, it's close. Since someone's done it. Okay, button. So again, we're still trying to understand this code at the moment. Okay, great, perfect. This is it. That's what we're looking for. So here is a closed issue that's saying we want to replace the bootstrap dropdown. So I'm going to look at either there's a merge request, which doesn't look like, or we decided not to do it for a reason. And if we decided not to do it for a reason, the same reason is going to apply here because it's using the same component, the same partial. Okay. So Mark is saying there are 5 dropdowns that directly or indirectly included in this file. All of them seem pretty clearly, dropdown disclosure, as they're generally lists of links. Okay. So here are all the possible dropdowns, I guess. Okay. What's less clear is the search. I think it's a dropdown. Oh, so we're talking about this entire file. The one that we care about is this. This is the one that we're looking at, the user. Okay, search we don't care about. I'm going to leave this as dropdown unknown for now, as several of these dropdowns have their own files and issues. Anyway, we can revisit it later. Okay, cool. So IP is saying, do you think it's worthwhile to work on this in the meantime, or should we leave it until the new navigation is out, which is out now? And then Sam is saying we should leave it. We still need to support the old nav for a while, so any improvements to it would be useful. Plus, we want to introduce a toggle to opt in or out of the new navigation soon. That's there. You've seen me use it. It's this one. I've lost my place. And that lives inside one of these drop downs. Yeah, okay, that's fair. Finally, if we're smart about how we do this, we may be able to reuse the components in the new nav, which would be useful. It's already done. But Mark pointed out there's 5 drop downs. You should split this into 5 migrations. And then Sam came back and said, I changed my mind. This would be a useless migration. I'm going to close it. Great. Cool. All right. So we can close our issue because if this is a useless migration, probably the other one is. I'm going to tag Sam and ask. Sam is the engineering manager for Foundations, my manager also. So I'm going to tag him in this issue, and I'll ask him if it's worth closing it or not. Okay. So cool things you can do here, I'll show you. So that's not right. Yeah, I think it's right. Okay, you can either do exclamation mark, I think is an MR or hash for a issue. So it'll auto-populate. I just want to make sure it's the right one. In preview, yeah, cool. And you get this fancy link. You can do the same for a merge request, but it's exclamation point. Since you said it wasn't with oh, that's not quite right. Let's cover this. Right. So I saw that this issue. So in this issue, the nav user dropdown is included. Okay. And this file makes use of the same partial. As the okay, and also the dropdown is misplaced. So maybe you need to, so this file makes use of the same partial as the nav bar. So should it also be closed? So yeah, I mean, this was a while ago, and I don't expect Sam to remember it. So to make it easier for him, I'm going to post a link to the chat where he was discussing that. The other thing I want to say here is also, as pointed out in this issue, the dropdown is misplaced. So even if we do fix it, it needs a lot more work, right? Even if we migrate it. Cool. And what I might also do is I might reference this recording in the issue so that if anyone else, I don't know, maybe it's interesting, but yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing end to our story, but I hope it was useful to see, like, with an issue like this, how do we tackle it? It's a couple years old. It's pretty complex. There's other similar ones, so we learned how to, you know, how to work out where this is being rendered, what it looks like. We had to look at similar issues, and we found the similar issues were close. We also worked out how to render it, which was a bit of an adventure. So I hope you found this interesting and useful. But yeah, thanks for joining.